Hey, Katie. We have Nancy's Mysterious Letter. We are on Chapter 15, A Worse Mix-Up. Though Nancy tried over and over to call the airline back, the wire continued to be busy. "Oh, phooey," she said to herself impatiently. Suddenly, Nancy realized that she still did not know if the reservation was for Mr. and Mrs. Edgar Nixon or for Edgar and Nancy Smith Drew. Also, she had not found out whether or not they were going to fly to London, nor what day they were flying. Before trying the airline again, Nancy had to relinquish the phone to several students who wanted to make calls. Soon the fraternity house held a mob of chattering, laughing boys and girls. Even if Nancy could have made the connection, she would not have been heard or what was being said at the other end of the line. Bess and George came running up to her. "Nancy, we've been looking all over for you. It's almost lunchtime," said Bess. "My, you look as if you're in the doldrums instead of having fun. What's the matter?" Nancy brought her friends up to date on the latest clue. "Well, here goes one more try for the airline." The cousins could tell by the expression on Nancy's face the line was still busy. Finally, George said, "If Miss Drew didn't tell Mrs. Roderick she was going away, she's probably coming back so you can talk to her later. Come on, time to eat, and then we'll have to hurry off to the game." Nancy was torn between two desires. She hated to give up her pursuit of the other Nancy Drew. On the other hand, she would not miss seeing Ned play in this big and final game of the football season for anything. At that instant, the telephone rang, and Nancy answered it. "Chi Omega Epsilon House?" a young woman's voice asked. "Yes." "I'd like to speak to Nancy Drew." "You're speaking to her. Is this Marion Wilson?" "Yes. Nancy, I'm so glad I got to you before you left." "Any news about Miss Drew?" Nancy asked her. "No, I haven't seen her. I drove around town thinking I might get a glimpse of her, but she wasn't in sight." Marion Wilson said that she had a request to make. "Since both Ned and Frank are playing, how about you and I attending the game together?" "I think that's a wonderful idea," said Nancy. "You know, there's just an outside chance that Nancy Smith Drew might be there, and you can spot her." It was arranged that Marion was to come over to the fraternity house directly after lunch and go to the game with the girls. Dave and Bert, who were on the second-string team, had left already for the stadium. An hour later, just as Nancy was about to leave the house with the group, a telephone call came from her father. "You must have something important to tell me," she said quickly. "I have tracked down the firm which offered to present Nancy Smith Drew so she can claim her inheritance." "What kind of agency is it?" his daughter inquired. "A shady outfit, and not to be trusted." Nancy was excited at the news. "Maybe the agency's story is fake, and some imposter is going to appear calling herself Nancy Smith Drew." "That's what Mr. Bates Jones thinks," her father said. She told him all that she had learned the night before and during the morning. Your clue gives me an idea, Dad. Maybe Edgar Nixon doesn't intend to marry Nancy Smith Drew at all. Instead, he's taking her away to keep her from being found by me." "It's a good guess," the lawyer remarked. "And here's another thing," Nancy went on. "Perhaps Edgar Nixon is already married to someone else who is in cahoots with him and is going to play the part." Mr. Drew sighed. "This mystery gets me more mixed up all the time. Well, Nancy, I advise you forget the whole thing for the afternoon and evening. Enjoy the game and have fun at the dance tonight." Nancy laughed. "I don't promise to forget the mystery, but I know I'll have a marvelous time. Goodbye, Dad. Take care." On the way to the game, Nancy brought her friends up to date on the latest development. Marion Wilson was shocked. "We mustn't let that lovely Miss Drew be swindled," she cried. Bess spoke up. "Nancy's doing everything she can. She's left messages everywhere for Nancy Smith Drew not to get married, and to get in touch with her immediately. Now, let's concentrate on the game." The girls agreed, and Nancy said no more about the mystery. There was a huge crowd on hand for this important game between Emerson and State University. Vendors stood outside the stadium selling pennants and football pins. So pennants, they're like little flags. You can wave them around as like, woohoo, vote for your team, or like root for your team. Football pins, hats, and flowers of the colors of the two colleges. Inside, the bands of both schools were playing. This, together with whistles and high-pitched conversation, made a great din. It turned to thunderous applause and cheers as the two teams trotted onto the field. Nancy and her friends had seats ideally located near the center of the field. They cheered lustily, then quieted as a whistle was blown by the referee, and the captains of the opposing teams met to confer with the officials. "Emerson receives the kick," came the announcement over the loudspeaker. The ball sailed through the air. The game was on. The blue jerseys of State U swept down the field. "Frank's catching it!" Marion cried as the ball came down. After deftly sidestepping a would-be tackler, Frank cut to his left, and with a good block from Ned Nickerson, sped to the 30-yard line before being tackled. Excitement ran high in the stands, packed solid with spectators in red, blue, and green sports clothes. Pennants waved amid the laughter and cheering spectators. "Now watch Ned go," Nancy said. "Come on, Ned! Touchdown!" On the playing field, Ned Nickerson realized there was no magic formula for conquering State U. He passed to a halfback who tried an end sweep. It was good for 3 yards. On the next play, Ned faded back to pass, but apparently State U had scouted him well because 2 linebackers came charging through. His toss was rushed and fell short of the receiver. A groan went up from Emerson. Ned himself tried an off-tackle slant, but failed to make the necessary 10 yards. Then he dropped back to a punt. The ball soared high and far, giving Emerson defenders plenty of time to race down the field. The State receiver was stopped in his tracks as Emerson fans roared their approval. "Come on, State! Suck it to 'em!" came cries from across the field, but State fared no better. They also had to kick on 4th down. Frank again received the ball, but instead of running with it, he lateraled to Ned. The speedy quarterback dived, ducked, wriggled, and sidestepped as he flew up the field. "Stop him! Stop him!" screamed State's rooters. Now there was only one man between Ned and the goal line. The quarterback tried to sidestep him. Slam! With a bone-jarring tackle, Ned was brought to the turf 12 feet short of a 6-pointer. He rose slowly from the ground and limped back into the huddle, but his chest hurt. "You all right?" Frank asked him. "Sure, just shaken up a little. Let's give him the down-and-out pass pattern." When the ball was snapped, Ned rolled back and to his left. Emerson's left end faked out the opposite opposing halfback and dashed toward the center of the field. Ned rifled a pass. It was a perfect pitch. The end caught it in his upstretched arms and fell across the goal line. "Yeah!" Marion exclaimed, jumping up and down and waving her arms wildly. Emerson's stands were a bedlam of noise and motion. Bedlam, it's like a lot of chaos. Their team led 6-0. "Come on, Ned!" Nancy cried out. "Make it 7!" She felt confident about Ned's place kicking. The sports writers had praised his toe. Now he would add to their score. As Ned walked back into the huddle, he was still wincing with the pain in his chest. The teams faced each other. State's linemen were poised, ready to spring forward at the snap of the ball. The ball was passed low to Frank. He set it up for the kick. Ned's leg came forward. His toe hit the ball and sent it sailing into the air as the spectators rose to their feet. There was dead silence for an instant, then a deafening roar. No good! The referee's motion indicated that the ball had missed by inches. "That's a shame," Marion said. "What happened to the great Nickerson?" a State fan yelled. "He better go to another college where he can learn how to punt." Nancy was concentrating on Ned. "Oh dear, I hope nothing has happened to him," she said to Marion. "He was limping a little." Suddenly Nancy's hand flew to her mouth as she stifled a shriek. "Oh no!" Ned Nickerson had collapsed on the green turf. "Uh-oh, something's wrong. But I'm sure he'll be okay. We'll find out."